Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. Today, we talk about the Phillies starting a 4-game series with the Pirates that'll take them through this weekend, what to look forward to, the pitching matchups, the expectations, all of that stuff as the Buccos come to town. And the Phillies fans out there, some of y'all need to take a deep breath. We're going to talk about it. It's okay. I'm not mad at you. We just need to set proper expectations. And we'll even take a look around the standings as we're a couple of weeks into the baseball season, where the Phillies are at compared to some other top teams in baseball. All of that on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. All that stuff I always tell you about really helps us out. And today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your vehicle alive. With all the parts you need at the price you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. So keep your car alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. I got to give a quick shout out before we dive into the episode. I'm rocking, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm rocking the new City Connect jersey style hats. I already told you, I'm not a huge fan of the jerseys and uniforms themselves, but something that I think a lot of people have agreed upon. The hats are pretty dope. I'm rocking this. Shout out to John Brazier of the Philadelphia Phillies. He's the director of fun and games for the Phillies. Came by the radio station today and hooked us up with some gear. So if you want to see how cool the hat looks, take a look on the YouTube. For the podcast listeners, it's got the Liberty Bell on there with like the blue and darker blue gradient. It's actually a pretty cool hat. Still not a fan of the jerseys, but proof I can be bought. If you give me free stuff, I'll tell you I like some of it. Anyway, let's get into this preview of the series with the Phillies and the Pirates, because this is a big one and an interesting one to kind of see where a couple of teams are at that have had interesting starts to the season. Now, we know that the Philadelphia Phillies, the past couple of years, have been a slow starting team. If you'll remember, last year, the Pittsburgh Pirates, or the last couple of years, a faster starting team. They fall off at the end. The Phillies kind of pick it up. And obviously there's a huge disparity in overall skill level between these two teams. But look at the record. I mean, the Pirates come into this series 9-3, leading the NL Central. If they're there by the end of the year, I'd be super surprised. But you're not playing them at the end of the year. You're playing them now. They've been playing darn good baseball. The Pirates have had themselves a really good start to the year, and the Phillies are 6-6. They're 500. The Phillies have won their last two series, but the Pirates are really playing consistently good ball right now. And you never want to play a team when they're hot, but the Pirates are playing pretty well right now. They just got off a 2-game series with the Tigers, and they ended up taking one of the two they played. They took 2 of 3 against the Orioles, who are a really good team. They took 2 of 3 against the Nationals. I mean, they have a really good look to them early, but remember, so they started off the season with a 4-game series with the Miami Marlins. They started off 4-0 in that. I don't think the Marlins are that good. I don't think that should be too much of a surprise to anyone if you follow their offseason. And then you play the Nationals. The Orioles is a good series win, but when 3 of your 4 opponents to start off the year are the Nationals, the Marlins, and the Tigers, you should probably have a pretty darn good record. So we're going to find out. Are the Pirates legitimately a good baseball team? It's early still. Or are the Philadelphia Phillies going to show that their superior talent level is going to put you in a place where you should be able to handle this series? Let's run through the pitching matchups and talk about that a little bit. Then we'll look at the overall strength of these teams. But in game 1, scheduled for tonight, a little bit of rain in the forecast, so we might see a doubleheader between the Pirates and the Phillies at some point this weekend. You've got Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phils. You got Jared Jones on the mound for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Jones, a 3.86 ERA. 1-1 this year, but a .94 whip with 17 strikeouts. He's looked solid so far this year in 11 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, that's a guy, 17 strikeouts and 11 2/3 innings pitched against a team like the Phillies that can have trouble striking out. Going to be interesting tonight to take a peek at that one. But if Ranger Suarez throws today, that means that it gets interesting in the middle part of the series. You're going to get Christopher Sanchez tomorrow, as long as rotations don't change because of a potential rain out. But Christopher Sanchez scheduled to throw tomorrow against Bailey Falter. We're going to talk about that one a lot in tomorrow's episode because it's a very interesting comparison of two young lefties that both kind of had that same role for the Philadelphia Phillies. Falter was somewhat replaced by Sanchez, then was traded to Pittsburgh, and now he's a part of the Pirates rotation. We know what Bailey Falter is, and Sanchez we have faith in here in Philadelphia, but that'll be a fun matchup because of the storylines. Saturday scheduled game is Spencer Turnbull facing off against Marco Gonzalez, who the Pirates acquired after being with the Mariners last year. And then the final game of the series is Zach Wheeler facing off against Mitch Keller. Big advantage to Wheeler. So if I'm just going through, I'd say Wheeler has the advantage over Keller easily. The Turnbull-Gonzalez thing might be kind of a wash. Turnbull's been really good. I worry about him coming back down to earth because he seems to be pitching out over his skis, above his watermark, if you will. But is he more healthy right now? Definitely. Maybe he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. Christopher Sanchez is better than Bailey Falter, so I feel good about that. And Ranger Suarez is better than Jared Jones, who you're facing tonight or supposed to face tonight. So you seem to have a advantage pitching-wise, and frankly, with the Phillies rotation and bullpen, you should have a pitching advantage in just about every series you play throughout the year. That's just the way this team is built, and that's why I still have a lot of faith in them as a baseball team. Let's look at some of the leaders for these teams. Bryce Harper leading the Phillies with 3 home runs, tied with Brandon Marsh. Edward Olivares is leading the Pirates with 3 home runs. He's also batting .321, which is darn good, but not good enough for lead on the team. Connor Joe is leading the Pirates in batting average with .324 average, but there's that guy again, Brandon Marsh. We know he's got 3 homers. He's also batting .333. He must like the number 3. Is he going to ask Bryce Harper to be able to wear it? Maybe. But Marsh batting .333 is a good sign of just how good he's been this year. He's been outstanding. And then Brian Reynolds has 10 RBIs to lead the Pirates. He's been a good RBI guy for them early. Harper, 7 RBIs for the Phillies. It's impressive where the Phillies numbers are at compared to the Pirates, considering we said, and a lot of people believe, the Phillies have had a slow offensive start to the season. Look at this. They're playing a 9-3 baseball team that has played the Tigers, Nationals, Marlins, and you can mix the Orioles in there, but I'm mainly looking at those 3 lower-tiered teams, and the numbers are pretty comparable with the Stars. So I feel good about the Philadelphia Phillies' chances to win this series. I do. Here's what I'll say, right? You can't look at this series as, oh, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. You should win 3 of 4. You should sweep them. When you get a 4-game series, you should never be mad. Like, unless it's late in the season or it's a team that's abysmal, you should never be mad at a 2-2 split, right? That might sound like, oh, why are you not shooting for higher? That's not how baseball is, folks. This is not like one game against the Pirates and you only play 17 like in the NFL. If you survive series and just take care of everything, 2-2 split in a 4-game series. You won 2 3-game series before this. Like, you consistently split or win series, you're going to be a high 90-win baseball team total by the end of this regular season. Like, you just are. So I don't want to set the expectations too high. Could the Phillies sweep the Pirates? I mean, in theory, yes. But again, I've told you multiple times, sweep is rarely the expectation, right? You can't really go into a series and say, I expect you to win all 3 of these. There's just too many variables, and it's not fair to expect that. To think it could happen, sure, but to expect that, not really fair. To win the series, I would say that is the probability for the Phillies. It is probable that they win 3 of 4 in this series. But if they don't, and they split 2 games apiece, I'm not going to be mad about that. That's treading water in April, which is totally fine. You're just trying to get the wheels rolling on the bus at this time of the year. And it's not a point where you're like worried about your standing or anything like that. We're going to talk about the standings later, but just for kind of a lay of the land. No one should be worried about where any team is in the standings in the National League and the National League East right now. It's just far too early. You just survive series, put together good at-bats, put together good pitching outings, let guys get their feet under them, and then there will be plenty of time in the season, trust me, plenty of time for them to really get rolling. So the other thing, though, I will say, right, if you're like, Connor, you're being too kind to the Phillies, you're being too forgiving. If they lose 3 or 4 to the Pirates, if they get swept by the Pirates, we're going to be having a much different conversation on this podcast come Monday after the series ends. So I'm not cutting them slack or anything. I'm just trying to set proper expectations for what should happen during this series with Pittsburgh. Speaking of like setting proper expectations, being in the right mindset, things of that nature, coming up, we're going to talk about a lot of Phillies fans probably needing to take a deep breath. All right. So if you've been stressed out about the team's start to the year, if you've been someone who's worried about where this team is right now, I'm going to try and talk you down a little bit coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First off, I want to tell you about Policygenius. Yes, Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. We all do it. You have to get insurance. You have to talk to some insurance agent. And then you're just like, oh, man, I'm going to put this off for 2 weeks, for a month, for no reason, just because you don't want to go through the hassle. But Policygenius makes it super easy to go ahead and go through all this. Get you a great rate. I'll try and work through and get you the best possible coverage. Like, they're going to do their due diligence to make sure that you are in the right spot when it comes to your insurance. They help you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. I mean, they've got award-winning agents who are going to walk you through the process step by step. It's super easy to compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. I mean, your work life insurance policy, it may not offer enough protection for your family's needs, or it may not come with you if you leave your job. We think about that all the time. If you potentially lose your employment, what happens to my insurance? Well, Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from licensed expert support team. They have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers. That can't be wrong. Come on, right? So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Now let me tell you about eBay Motors, because you want to make sure your life insurance is taken care of. You also want to make sure your car is taken care of. And passion, drive, and patience, that's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your vehicle alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. They got superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, everything you can think of, and then some. You might be into speed, might be Johan Rojas, might be into power, like Kyle Schwarber, might be into style, like Bryce Harper, but eBay Motors has you covered for all of those. You got over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. They got eBay Guaranteed Fit, which means your part is guaranteed to fit your vehicle every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And that's because they got all the parts you need at the prices you want. Super easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your vehicle alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. I'm not mad at you. Okay, I'm not mad at Phillies fans who are upset with the start to the season, who are annoyed with the lack of offense, who have been a little bit questioning about the defense and everything like that. The base running has been bad at points. Like, I'm not trying to tell you, what are you mad about? The Phillies have had a great start to the season. That's not what I'm saying, okay? I'm going to level with you. Like, they have not had the ideal start to the season. They've won 2 series in a row. The offense is going to come. It just is. We go through this every year. We went through it 2 years ago. We went through it last year. We're going through it again. Eventually, folks, you got to start learning that this team is just going to be okay. They are. There's no need to freak out in April. There's no need to worry about, I saw a bunch of comments on Twitter, right? After the game went final yesterday, a 4-3 win for the Phillies in the final game in St. Louis against the Cardinals. It was like, oh, missed opportunities on the base pass with runners in scoring position, left a lot of runners out there, bullpen making it interesting, everything like that. Like, why can't you score more runs? You're right, but here's the thing. You almost can't consume baseball game by game. I know we do here. It's a daily podcast. I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to give you reaction and insight to games Monday through Friday, every day, every week. That's kind of what we do. So I can't get mad at you for doing it. I literally get paid to do it. But when you consume a game, you have to realize it's one of 162. A lot of you out there listening are Eagles fans or football fans, NFL fans in general. One of 162 is basically like it's – so when it was a 16-game season, but we'll just keep that the same. One game is like 1/10 of a NFL, or like one whatever of an NFL. My point is, you have to play 10 games to get to the equal of one game in an NFL season. So I guess one game then, mathematically, I'm not a math guy. You can see I'm struggling this. I think would be like 1/10 of a game in a football season. 1/10 of a game, a quarter would be like 2.5 games. So you're reacting to like the first 5 minutes first 5 minutes of an NFL game when you react to a single game. That's it. 5 minutes worth of a single quarter of a single game. It's not enough to. Could you imagine if you were watching an NFL game? Let's just take the Eagles, for example. And in the first 5 minutes of a game, Jalen Hurts didn't throw a touchdown. Would you say, oh, my goodness, Jalen Hurts, he stinks now. He's terrible. He can't play quarterback anymore. No, we wouldn't say that. So why over one game are we, the offense this, the defense this? I know now you're at a point, it's 6-6. It's been 12 games. So basically you've gotten to the point where they've played one game out of 16, right? It's just the first game of the year, they're 500. It's almost like they tied, and it wouldn't be fun. But you need to understand how to consume the full baseball season and not try and overreact to little things. The other thing that we need to be cognizant of is history. I've said this about baseball before, but I'll echo it again. Baseball is the ultimate watermark sport. You know why baseball cards are so popular? Not just because they're collector items, but it was originally baseball cards because the numbers are so darn consistent for baseball. In football, you have a bad game, a bad 3 weeks, your numbers for the season could be totally different. It's only 17 opportunities. In basketball and hockey, there's only 82. So you have a bad 2 weeks, and the next thing you know, your point scoring average is not the same. In baseball, like, you can have a bad 2 months and still end up hitting your numbers average-wise. You might not hit the aggregate numbers, but average-wise. And you'll still be able to contribute to the team winning and all of that. It's just such a large sample size that so often the stuff we worry about by the end of the season comes out in the wash. So does the offense need to be better? Absolutely. The Phillies have not played in that great of weather. And, frankly, outside of a couple games in St. Louis, they've been playing mainly in like 40, 50 degrees. It'll come as it gets warmer. The ball flies better. The guys feel better. It'll happen. Has the pitching been great? Absolutely. And that should be something to hang your hat on. The starting pitching the Phillies have gotten this year has been exceptional. Why can't we choose to focus on the positive there rather than the negative of the offense, or the slight negative of the offense, because still they're winning series? And the defense, Yohan Rojas has been exceptional in center field. Brandon Marsh has been pretty good in left. Alec Bohm has been really good at third. Bryce Harper has shown flashes at first. Bryson Stott has settled down at second base. Like, they're a solid defensive team too. We nitpick because we want this team to be great, and I get it. But sometimes you got to take a deep breath, a step back, and understand the talent level on this team and what you saw last year and the year before. at the end of the day, at the end of the year, this team is going to be right in the mix, just like all the other top teams in baseball. And there are not that many top teams in baseball. So the Phils are fine. But in case you don't believe me, coming up, we're going to check in on the standings. We're going to look at the division. We're going to look at the league. It's too early, but I want to just give you some framing for why I'm so chill about how the Philadelphia Phillies have started their season. So we'll do that coming up as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. First, though, come on, FanDuel. You know I got to tell you about FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You don't have to win a bet. You just go ahead and you get that $150. All you have to do, right? Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. I mean, you're going to get that guaranteed $150 if you're a new user, and you can use that $150 on whatever you'd like, whether it's betting on baseball, basketball, hockey, maybe some golf, the golf tournament going on. I don't know what you're waiting for. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, a look around the standings when it comes to where the Philadelphia Phillies are at right now. We'll start with, obviously, the National League East because the division is the race that you look at. So the Philadelphia Phillies, 500. Slow start to the year again, right? Well, let's take a look. The Braves, how many wins do you think they have? 8, 9, 10? The Braves have 7 wins. Now, they're 7-3, so their winning percentage is 700, but still, they have one more win than the Philadelphia Phillies. They've played 10 games. The Phillies have played 12. Are the Braves a better team right now? Yes, that's fine. It's April. But the Phillies are second in the division. The Nationals are 5-7. You just saw them play that team. The Nationals are not remotely as good as the Phillies. You almost swept them. The Mets are 4-7. That team is already in trouble. The Marlins are 2-11. They're not even going to be in contention in this division. Like, as far as the division goes, there were clearly 2 teams that were competing going in. There are clearly 2 teams that are competing right now. The Phillies are the second best team right now in division, and they're not far off the Braves. It's not like they're getting run off the table. So I wouldn't worry about that at all, the divisional standings. It's not like they're getting pulled away from. The best team in the National League right now is the Pittsburgh Pirates, who you're playing. Remember what we talked about earlier? How they're playing out over their skis a little bit because of competition level? Probably. Well, that's proof positive. I mean, the best 2 teams in the National League are the Pirates at 9-3, the Brewers at 8-3. Now the Dodgers are 10-5 by percentage points. They're lower, and then it's the Braves. But the Reds have the same record as the Phillies. The Cubs are 7-5, same amount of wins as the Braves. I mean, the Padres have 7 wins. Now they're under 500 because they played a mountain of games because of that first series against the Dodgers, that Soul series before everyone else got started. It's just like, I don't know. The Arizona Diamondbacks, who won the National League last year, are 6-7. It's too early to worry about overarching stuff. And I know you want to react to games. I'm not telling you not to react. I'm not telling you not to be angry if the team gets shut out like they were in Game 2 against the Cardinals in St. Louis. I'm just saying, like, the overarching, this team didn't do anything in the offseason. They're making the same mistakes. Give it a little bit before you worry about the overall expectations of this team. I promise they're fine. If they're not, we'll have that conversation when we get there, but take my word for it. We've seen this last year. We saw it the year before. They're going to kick into gear around the same time they always do, maybe earlier this year because the schedule is more advantageous, and we're going to be laughing about this in May and June. That's where I'll leave this one for today. Hopefully the Phillies get the game in tonight. Rain in the forecast. We'll see. If not, could be a doubleheader. But the Phils are supposed to take on the Pirates tonight at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Citizens Bank Park. So we'll have that to watch. We'll have that to react to, hopefully. If not, we'll be talking about the schedule change and looking at the series more tomorrow. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you again for checking us out. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.